A poem from the Uptown Farmers Market, Port Townsend, Washington, the Olympic Peninsula, September 2010. The Runaway Smile, for dairy farmer Rachel van Lanen. She had a smile you could run away with. A smile, blooming sun and soul, marrowstone roses and pasture grasses, ripe blackberries and honest beauty, blue water and red earth. This lady farmer from Mystery Bay, sharing her milkmaid smile and the hawthorned fruits of her alpine goats. Welcome to the latest floating poetry broadcast, and thank you for leaning in, some of you freshly, some now and then, others of you consistently. How good you're all here for show 147 in my ongoing weekly series, coming to you live from the beaming coast of the ocean state, Rhode Island. This is your poet and poetorialist, Colin Goedecke, a voice for living our days more fully, more alively, more poetically. In broadcast 146, we revolved around birthdays. The day each of us arrived, began life on earth. A day to toast, honor, appreciate, or remember a loved one, a favorite someone, or your own precious self. And no less, maybe, something significant you created, achieved, gave birth to, or are in the process of birthing. This week, the smile, outside and in. Around smiles of all kinds, especially those that spring from a good-feeling place. And looking at smiles culturally, from art to song, the social, to the emotional, to the gestural. And the universally welcome effect smiles have on us, on others, no matter who or where or how young or old we are. No matter what we're going through, and especially when we're going through a trying time, a hard moment, being in a downhearted place. After all, joyful, smiling is contagious, is it not? So, let's go ear to ear into the cultural commentary, poetry, and inquiry I have for you, for us, on this theme this week. And as we do, why don't we each take a moment now and a good, slow in-breath and form a wide smile, letting the corners of your lips float upward and your eyes soften and crinkle at the edges. Yes. All right then. Start in the right smiling frame. Well, Andrew Garbarini, a marvelous man I dearly loved and greatly miss, gone for years, but ever in my molecules, and not least the most winning smile he had. And this is from East Hampton, New York, where we were neighbors. Back in September 2008, I wrote this ode to him. You have to hand it to Garbarini. A mold breaker, that man, cut from the best Italian-American cloth, embroidered with a true love for old standards, style, stories, and movie lines. James Mason, move over. Red wines and red-headed ladies, chicken livers and real laughter. A gentleman songster and romancer, this maestro, who often adds to the airwaves around him the sudden swing of Sinatra, the purr of Porter, the gold tongue of Gershwin, Ira and George, and others from his altar, when he's not dancing across a moonlit floor. A good looker, this beau jester, vivacious and gracious of figure and face, the smooth rake of silver hair, the welcoming eyes, the wide and sun-dappled smile, the head-to-toe length and strength of him, the east, north, south, and the rest of him. A friend of the first order, my Andrew, always out there, like a planet or pole star, happy to give, grateful to receive, the kind of bello fellow, confidant, and confrère you rarely find in the world, and treasure beyond words when you do. Hats off to Andrew in the ether. Here's one for young Nipper. This was for Ellis Erickson on his 8th birthday back in 2018. It's called a Double E Day. That was my nickname for him, Double E. A Double E Day. The day when everything pairs, from your socks and shoelaces to your pencils and the hands on all the clock faces. When everything matches, from the bird song in the park to the boy song in your heart. When everything echoes, like you, and the one and only you see smiling back in the mirror. Which, by the way, is good exercise for all of us, to smile at ourselves in the mirror. From Awaken, AWAKIN.com, it might be .org. Small Kindnesses, by Danusha Lameres. I've been thinking about the way when you walk down a crowded aisle, people pull in their legs to let you by, or how strangers still say, bless you, when someone sneezes, a leftover from the bubonic plague. Don't die, we are saying. And sometimes when you spill lemons from your grocery bag, someone else will help you pick them up. Mostly we don't want to harm each other. We want to be handed our cup of coffee hot and to say thank you to the person handing it, to smile at them and for them to smile back. For the waitress to call us honey when she sets down the bowl of clam chowder, and for the driver in the red pickup truck to let us pass. We have so little of each other now, so far from tribe and fire. Only these brief moments of exchange. What if they are the true dwelling of the holy, these fleeting temples we make together when we say, here, have my seat. Go ahead, you first. I like your hat. Small kindnesses. Well, I went over to Wikipedia for us. I'm doing lots of spelunking around this topic. And I was curious what they had to say about the evolutionary background of smiling. Well, the primatologist Signe Bruschoft traces the smile back over 30 million years of evolution to a, quote, fear grin, stemming from monkeys and apes, who often used barely clenched teeth to portray to predators that they were harmless, or to signal submission to more dominant group members. The smile may have evolved differently among species, especially among humans. I think we know that culturally. From yourdictionary.com, how to describe a smile in different ways. It's on the myriad kinds of smiles possible and what they signify. There's quite a few, but I just plucked out a handful to share the different kinds that I'll mention. Affectionate, a smile that shows the love a person feels for someone or something. Approving, that indicates a person is in favor of something. Beaming, that seems to radiate happiness. Bright, that shows intelligence. Broad, that shows great happiness. Charming, shows the person is trying to make a good impression. Compassionate, that shows empathy. Encouraging, that shows support for another. Enthusiastic, and up for anything smile. Gentle, tender, unthreatening. Infectious, that makes other people smile. Innocent, guilt-free smile. Playful, a smile with a glint of mischief and fun. Radiant, the kind of smile that seems to glow. Soft, that shows quiet affection or appreciation. Sunny, love sunny smiles, bright and happy. Tender, that indicates sensitivity. And winsome, a smile that is childlike and charming. And they also have how to describe some complicated smiles, like condescending smiles, devilish, forced, insolent, meek, melancholy, mysterious. Well, which of these smiles have you witnessed or expressed, dear listeners? Curious. Which brings me to other questions for us that I have for you. Who in your life has or had the most marvelous smile? Like if you closed your eyes and you thought of that person, that smile, who was that? What about some public figure who to you has a winning smile, a real winning smile? How do you tell the difference between a genuine and a shallow or disingenuous smile? Have there been any times you wanted to smile but held back on it? And if so, what was that all about? Not good to hold back our expressions of joy. What kinds of moments, happenings, experiences always elicit or inspire a deep smile from you? Do you smile often? Did you smile a lot as a child or a lot more as a child? Well, some of you know from last week that I came out of the womb extremely early, but I came out smiling. And I saw a baby picture of me. I have it somewhere. It's almost impossible, but it's true that I came out fairly early on, smiling. And I've been a serial smiler and laugher for 64 years since then. You could ask anyone who knows me about that. They will vouch for that in spades, hearts, clubs, and diamonds. What feelings accompany your smile or tend to? Are they recurring or are they different ones each time? What situations have you been in where a smile was wildly and wonderfully contagious? When was the last time you had or exchanged a heartful smile with a stranger? And when was the last time you went to bed or woke up with a smile on your lips? You can tell me on the QT if you want. You can always send me a note, answer any of those questions or anything else you have to say to me or share with me. Came across an interesting book, Lip Service by Marianne LaFrance. Lip Service, a book, Smiles in Life, Death, Trust, Lies, Work, Memory, Sex, and Politics. It draws on the author's research at Yale and Boston College, alongside a wide array of cross-disciplinary studies from psychology, anthropology, biology, medicine, and computer science to reveal how smiles impact our interpersonal dynamics and our life experience as social beings. Well, what do you think? Maybe would you like to read that book or some of it? Well, here's a slice. In there it says, smiles are universally recognized and understood for what they show and convey, yet not necessarily for what they do. They are much more than cheerful expressions. They are social acts with consequences. People think they can tell by looking at what the overall face looks like, but in fact, there is one muscle that shows sincerity. It's a muscle called the orbicularis oculi that encircles the eye socket. Most people don't pay very close attention to it, and it's very hard to deliberately adopt. So when people genuinely smile in a true burst of positive emotion, not only to the corners of the mouth, controlled by the zygomaticus major, but this muscle around the eye also contracts. This causes the crow's feet wrinkles that fan out from the outer corners of the eyes, and it's also responsible for folds in the upper eyelid. Most people can't do that deliberately. Well, maybe try that. Try it anyway. Or just notice when it happens. Just a little more on the smile itself is from mbgmindfulness.com. From dominance to Duchenne, 12 kinds of smiles and what each means. I won't read them all. But it says, as the adage goes, you're never fully dressed without a smile. But which type? As you've likely noticed throughout your own interactions with people, smiles can convey many emotions in many instances. So the Duchenne smile, I never knew there was a name for this kind of smile, but it's a smile of true enjoyment, truly genuine, and it identified by the way it reaches a person's eyes, that we heard about just a moment ago from the book Lip Service. Social smiles can be called non-enjoyment smiles or affiliative. Think of them as the somewhat strained, usually no-tooth smile you give a person you pass on the street or make eye contact with. I tend to smile pretty fully when I see someone light up. I light up back or light them up. Dominant smiles used to manage social hierarchies and status. Don't like those. Not for me. Here your eyebrows and cheeks are lifted, similar to the Duchenne, but the smile loses its symmetry and looks more like a smirk or a sneer. Dampened smiles. If you've tried to tone down an intense toothy grin, that would be dampened. It's common in areas of the world more subtle with their facial expressions, like Japan. We'll have to go over there and find out if that's true. Embarrassed smiles, tight with the head lifted down, often a shifting of the eyes to the left, looking away in discomfort. Polite smiles, I think you know about those. How about this one? Pan Am smiles. Named due to the need for flight attendants, that was the old Pan Am Airways, to stay smiling, the Pan Am smile is one service industry workers know too well, and they're typically part of the emotional labor required in such jobs, but they come across as distinctly forced or fake. They can look over the top, because mostly they are. Flirtatious smiles, head turned to one side with the chin tilted down, a slight smile and eye contact, and wistful smiles. Last but not least, showing a feeling of vague or regretful longing, nostalgic. Yes, the telltale feature is the expression in the eyes. Lovely. Okay, on we go. So I was thinking, the Buddha came to mind, and the Buddha's smile. Think of that, sort of timeless and transcendent. So I looked up from the dailyenlightenment.com about that. And it says one of the most iconic images of Buddhism is surely that of the Buddha, sitting silently under a tree with his eyes half closed, while beaming the most beautiful, kind, and understanding smile ever. So enduring is this depiction of deep peace and composure that the Buddha, be it in the form of statues or pictures, is the most reproduced image in the world, appreciated not only by Buddhists, but by people from various cultural walks of life, like me, maybe you, to the extent that Buddha images have become home decor must-haves for many. Yet as alluring as that smile is, many are still puzzled by it, for it presents a mystery. Why is the Buddha smiling? What is he smiling about? How did he manage to attain the true happiness that his smile represents? Perhaps most importantly, can we smile a similar smile too? Of course we can. It's not the deeper reason why we venerate the Buddha, so as to draw inspiration from him, so as to emulate his perfect compassion and wisdom. The good news is that ever since the Buddha smiled, his, quote, magic smile, he shared on how we can too. It's because he has made peace not only with himself, but with the rest of the world. Yes, Buddha smile. Zach Strait, Another Moon. Mama said it only existed in storybooks with its soft surface of bluebells, but there it was, spinning so close to the earth that it bent every weather vane in Omaha. It was prom night, and I thought I'd pluck a few trumpets to bring your grandma, so I pulled out our red ladder out of the garage and climbed to the roof. I stood up and imagined I was balancing the moon on my head. The narrow windows of Union Station gleamed like ice chips, and the thin faces of the clock tower told me it was almost 8. I was going to be late picking Nancy up if I didn't get a move on, so I snipped off the best stems and hurried back down to my Ford. I sped through every stop sign on my way to her parents' house. She was waiting with her arms crossed, trying not to look upset. I think she thought she was going to get stood up, so when I popped open the door and told her to get in, she couldn't help smiling a bit. She asked what had taken me so long, and I figured I should go ahead and give her the flowers I'd brought her. I'd set them back behind the steering wheel to not ruin the surprise. I told her she was the princess and I was the knight who rode into the stars so he could flare their notes to her on a blue horn. Lovely. Thank you, Zach Strait. New poem and poet to me and maybe to you. Michelle Wolfe, The Sleeping Gypsy. In the heat of her dream, she hears the iron kettle boiling, its scuttle and hum as hurried as hoofbeats across a plain. She drops in 2 guinea hens. Dancing in a ring round her skirts, the children cheer, "Auntie, the English song!" Lifting her lute, she sings of the cat and the fiddle, the cow jumping over the moon. How the little ones hoot when the dish runs away with the spoon. Ah, spoon, an uncloaked lute, it waits to be strummed. The temptation of London, of Paris, of bumping along in the carriage with Monsieur Philippe in his top hat and great coat to visit the peacocks, turquoise and gold and green, each roaming the Bois de Boulogne with 100 eyes. She sleeps in the desert under a smiling full moon that shines in the teal night. Quiet behind her, a lion stands, tail erect, having sniffed at her onyx flesh, at the ribbony stripes, His color blindness darkens on her muslin dress, all rainbow hues. She is lost in a dream, always happiest out of doors, without shoes. Beautiful. Read that before. Michelle Wolf, thank you for that. I was thinking, as you might be, or maybe as in anticipation of the show, what about smiles in art, like the Mona Lisa? And so I went to artsy.com, and there's an article, Why Are Smiles So Rare in Art History? So rare. For most of recorded human history, the open smile has been, quote, deeply unfashionable, observes writer Nicholas Jeeves in his book, The Serious and the Smirk, The Smile in Portraiture. A smile is like a blush, he writes. It is a response, not an expression per se, and so it can neither be easily maintained nor easily recorded. If a painter did manage to convince his subject to be portrayed mid-smile, the resulting portrait would be immediately perceived as radical. The smile would become the focus of the picture, rarely what a paying subject might wish for. The Italian Renaissance artist Antonello da Damascena was one of the few to consistently return to the smile in his work. He was trained in the cutting-edge oil painting techniques developed in the Netherlands, which prioritized a direct observation of nature. He introduced the smile into his portrait paintings to indicate the inner lives of his realistically rendered sitters. His portrait of a young man from about 1470 far predates Leonardo da Vinci's Mona Lisa, 1503, long considered the owner of the most enigmatic smile in art. Well, I was thinking along, too, about the smile in songs. You may have some that you immediately think of. I was thinking, of course, lover of old songs and standards and things, was the song Smile that Jimmy Durante sang, but also Nat King Cole, probably more even famously to many. And actually that was written, curiously enough, for not the lyrics, but the music was written by Charlie Chaplin. That was fascinating. And I think you know this one is, smile though your heart is aching, smile even though it's breaking. When there are clouds in the sky, you'll get by. And so on. Yeah, you might want to go and listen to that again. It's a lovely song. And then When Irish Eyes Are Smiling, and I was bowing to my Irish side when I was thinking of that song, and my Irish and French-Canadian mother, Maureen Cassidy, my green-eyed, lovely mother, not on the earth anymore, but definitely in my heart. I was thinking of her in that song. When Irish eyes are smiling, sure it's like a morning spring. In the lilt of Irish laughter, you can hear the angels sing. Yeah, that's from Mom. Well, what of those places we pass through or find ourselves in where the atmosphere itself is smiling and feeling? It's a poem from New York City of mine, March 2001. It was written actually for an Englishman, an accordionist, a great accordionist. I don't know if he's still around, but if he is, I'll send this out to him in the ether. The Accordion's Song. The accordion, the bellows of jaunty old French and Italian fellows, conjuring up left-bank cafes, smiling with lovers and handsome roués, breezy nights under striped awnings, soft candlelights. Old-world days we imagine living in, drinking in, days of berets and gay Parisians, of Fellini-filmed Romans and sun-skinned Sicilians. Dancing days long gone, but suddenly recalled by the sweet and carefree breathing of an old accordion song. I also chose poems that I was hoping might bring some kind of smile to you and to me at the same time, smiling in stereo. Back in 1998 in Holland and Amsterdam, I had an enchanting experience over dinner in the kitchen of then dear friends. I had had other dinners there over years that inspired a lovely pas de deux, just like that. Just got up from the table and there we went. It's called Twee Schortsen Dansen, 2 aprons dancing. Dedicated that to Herma Krabbe, who was my dance partner and the hostess of that evening with her husband, Jeroen. Only your father wears a hat in the kitchen at Van Egenstraat, smiling on the scene. A sudden dance of aprons. You in your Provençal yellow, your fellow in his sea blues and greens, smoothing together to a luscious piano played by an old beauty down in Havana on this smiling night in June. You know, often I write poems also as touchstones to moments, so I go right back to them and feeling. I can close my eyes, can remember everything that happened, not just those words, but all the other things that were going on. Yes. Rita Dove, American Smooth. We were dancing. It must have been a foxtrot or a waltz, something romantic but requiring restraint, rise and fall. Precise execution as we moved into the next song without stopping. 2 chests heaving above a 7-league stride. Such perfect agony one learns to smile through, ecstatic mimicry being the sine qua non of American Smooth. And because I was distracted by the effort of keeping my frame, the leftward lean, head turned just enough to gaze out past your ear and always smiling, I didn't notice how still you'd become until we had done it. For 2 measures? 4? Achieved flight. That swift and serene magnificence. Before the earth remembered who we were and brought us down. American Smooth. Thank you, Rita Dove. That's from the collection of the same name of hers. Wonderful poet. I didn't know that one either, that poem, before. From the hills of Tuscany, a quarter century back in time from today, in place, the village of Panzano in Italia. This is written for the master butcher, actually quite famous beyond Panzano, Dario, il impresario. The master butcher, un maestro della macelleria, a man with the smile the size of Panzano, presides at an altar of stainless steel, in a room chandeliered with magnificent meats and necklaces of red peppers, a white-tiled duomo of carne rosso, porco e palame, accompanied by breast-swelling arias and clouds of spectators, beholding Cecchini the Great in his balletto del filetto, each move a choreography of carnivorous contemplation, marbled with conversation, laughter, and la vita. I hope he's still out there, maybe still doing his magic over in Panzano in Toscana. David Jauss, Jauss. Might be Jauss, not sure. Smile. The posthumous shock when the bulb flashes, a kind of time travel. You see your face displayed, decades from now, on a flea market table, a stranger's eyes drifting over it as he passes by. Your absence, you realize, will be as puny as your thumb-sized image on the sepia paper. There will be no one who remembers you as anything more than a name in the family Bible. And suddenly you envy, with something like thirst, the grand absence of the photographer, an absence as large and pure as God's, who created the world, the story goes, with the same trick of light. And you imagine standing forever behind that camera, outside the framed world, squinting at the evidence that you, for one flash of time, existed, and you feel rise in you, rise swirling like dust in sunlight, the desire to be so perfectly absent you could never die. Thank you, David. Jauss, smile. Adena Gioia, finding a box of family letters. The dead say little in their letters they haven't said before. We find no secrets, and yet how different every sentence sounds heard across the years. My father breaks my heart simply by being so young and handsome. He's half my age, with jet black hair. Look at him in his Navy uniform, grinning beside his dive bomber. "Come back, Dad," I want to shout. He says he misses all of us, though I haven't yet been born. He writes from places I never knew he saw, and everyone he mentions now is dead. There is a large, long photograph curled like a diploma, a banquet 60 years ago. My parents sit uncomfortably among tables of dark-suited strangers. The mildewed paper reeks of regret. I wonder what song the band was playing, just out of frame, as the photographer arranged your smiles. A waltz, a foxtrot. Get out there on the floor and dance. You don't have forever. What does it cost to send a postcard to the underworld? I'll buy a penny stamp from World War II and mail it downtown at the old post office, just as the courthouse clock strikes 12. Surely the ghost of some postal worker still makes his nightly rounds, his routine too tedious for him to notice when it ended. He works so slowly he moves back in time, carrying our dead letters to their lost addresses. It's silly to get sentimental. The dead have moved on. So should we. But isn't it equally simple-minded to miss the special expertise of the departed in clarifying our long-term plans? They never let us forget that the line between them and us is only temporary. Get out there and dance, the letters shout, adding, love always. Can't wait to get home. And soon we will be. See you there. Finding a box of family letters. Dana Choya, thank you, from her collection, 99 poems. Sharon Schmielartz, Fisher's Club. A roadside inn, lakeside dive, spiffed up, end of a summer day. And I suppose I should be smiling beneficently at the families playing near the shore, their plastic balls and splashes and chatter. But my eye pivots left to a couple. He is carrying her into the water. He's strong enough, and she is light enough to be carried. I see how she holds her own, hugging his neck, his chest steady as his arms. I have never seen such a careful half-dunk as he gives her. That beautiful play he makes lifting her from the water. And I suppose I should be admiring the sunset, all purple and orange and rose now. Nice porch here, too. Yeah, great view. But I have never seen such a loving carrying as he gives her. Imagine being so light as to float above water in love. Fisher's Club. Thank you. Thank you, Sharon. Schmielartz for that. Chmielarz. From her collection, The Widow's House. Ponder the earth smiling, as Walt Whitman does here so jubilantly in this excerpt from his Leaves of Grass. Press close, bare-bosomed night, press close, magnetic, nourishing night, night of south winds, night of the large few stars, still nodding night, mad, naked summer night. Smile, O voluptuous, cool-breathed earth, earth of the slumbering and liquid trees, earth of departed sunset, earth of the mountains misty-topped, earth of the vitreous pour of the full moon just tinged with blue, earth of shine and dark mottling the tide of the river, earth of the limpid gray of clouds, brighter and clearer for my sake, far swooping, elbowed earth, rich apple-blossomed earth, smile, for your lover comes. Prodigal, you who have given me love, therefore I to you give love. O unspeakable, passionate love. Thank you, Walt Whitman. Always thank you. What was the last thing you smiled quietly about, dear listeners? Alone with yourself, maybe looking in a mirror. Here's Julian Gewertz's poem, The Bliss of Solitude. In my left hand you were a burning rope. All day long this air was thin as the smile of quartered mangoes or the glow of skin in my nightlight. and all day long I was speaking, in the perpetually blue field, past tall wheat to the sycamore tree. I remember climbing up, hollering as the sky filled from the top with that dark, sinking like cold smoke into the city. Tonight the meadow is laughing again, while a kit of Jacobins, moles in wire cages sleeping inside the fantails of their collars. And in that garden, an old man in his green silk pajamas, stitched with fishermen angling silver rivers, wraps his arms around the moonlight, falling on a thin wool blanket, waxing moon, half-weighted hammock. The bliss of solitude. Thank you, Julian Gewurz, from his collection, Your Face, My Flag. Well, some of you may know, including my friends who actually were my sponsors, hosting me a number of times at their beautiful place in Cobble Hill, Brooklyn, where I did several private artist in residences years back. And it was a renovated circa 1900 Lutheran church there. And among many poems that flowed during those times, those magical, marvelous times, there was this, in a reverent mode, Before Evensong. For today's tour, Before Evensong, before Liebeslied, our blessed man wears a pure white stole spun with sun-gold flowers and animals, deer, wild hare, a crowing rooster, unfolding petals, a stole and a smile sunlit from an inner heaven, as he guides a willing, freewheeling visitor through this secular yet sacred haven, from its foundations to its recreations, from its meditations to its susurrations. Before Evensong, toast to that place and those lovely hosts. You would probably know the Vietnamese monk Thich Nhat Hanh. He passed away last year. Was born in 1926. He helped bring Buddhism and mindfulness to the West. Quite a marvelous figure. Well, he said, in our busy society, it's a great fortune to breathe consciously from time to time. We can practice conscious breathing, not only while sitting in a meditation room, but also while working at the office or at home, while driving our car or sitting on a bus, wherever we are, at any time throughout the day. We can recite these 4 lines silently as we breathe in and out. Breathing in, I calm my body. Breathing out, I smile. Breathing in, dwelling in the present moment. Breathing out, I know this is a wonderful moment. Practice for you, if you don't know that one. Well, toward our final handful of sharings and musings on smiling of all kinds, some odes to various dear friends in my life who make my heart smile, or did, or do. The first one is off in the cosmos since then, but this was on his 83rd birthday back in 2007, Earl Burgett. It's called Earl's Eyes. Blue as blue hydrangeas, they've seen the world and war, at war and peace. Mountains and the men who moved them. Children and grandchildren come and childhood go. Thousands of moons full and waxing, suns rising, faces of all kinds and cultures smiling. They've opened widely in love and closed shyly in kisses, cried for a lifetime of joys and sorrows, of sentiments and great moments of exuberance. And the more they see and let and light inside, the more we see through those luminous, endless blue eyes of you. What a dear man. I always have a big feeling in my heart, a deep, beautiful feeling whenever I think of him. Well, here's one to someone I hope is listening tonight. My dear friend, Sunny Sulet, down in Glen Cove, Long Island. The woman with the violet eyebrows, I call her. This was on her 90th birthday, and I was delighted to be able to be present at that birthday last year. And I presented this poem to the whole crowd, and everyone was very happy about it. Everybody smiled about this one. It's Always Sunny is the title. Even when life is cloudy, or rainy. For the spirit of a woman, a solar woman, it's always shining, has been full of light for a near century. From your girlhood at the fish farm and salt pans, safe, happy, and well-nourished, to the bustle and social of Iloilo, always well-schooled, well-cherished, to the sandy shoreline and transplanted heartline of Long Island, devoted husband in hand, then children, mothering, growing, nursing, and navigating these and patiently other lives, weaving and being woven into strands and streams of life stories, American and Filipino histories, memories. Now as you sit here, speak and smile here, 90 years later, necklaced with good fortune and good family, you're still as sunny, always so beautifully, beamingly, unforgettably sunny. Big love to her and to her family, my friends, Gigi and Frank and Irvie and Roger and the whole gang. Well, even with the passing of someone from our lives, our world, aspects of them endure, do they not? From a style or a turn of phrase to their voice or face or signature smile. Well, here's one from my father. Even raking leaves and pruning the roses and ice skating, figure eighting on Watchung's winter lake. He was well-dressed, always, my father, in cuffed and creased wool trousers, white shirt and tie, old-school English style. Sometimes a shearling coat, fisherman knit sweater. Always cutting a stylish figure, whether custom-suited and silk-stocking doing business in the big city, or straw-hatted and open-necked taking cocktails at our seaside house summer times. No surprise to see him sporting a tan 10-gallon hat on the wall of the Palm, then and later, among other fashionable faces and colorful characters of the day, where he may still be smiling, though the sun is long since set on the rest and best of him, on his particular panache, and those colorful leaves and trellised blooms. Hats off to him and a smile. A poem from Long Beach, New York, September 2021. And I'd like to do an experiment. I'd like to read this once with a smile, and then again without a smile. But I'm not going to tell you which, and see if you can tell the difference, if you can hear the difference. Fancy meeting you here on Earth. All those decades ago, you and your sun-bright smile, moon-bright eyes, billowing heart, for the first time, meeting all of you, all your radiance, eloquence, pure kindness then, and every time since. Never less than full of the same zest for living and loving, never being other than a best friend, faithful champion. And no matter the passage of time or change of place, always engaged and engaging, ever generously giving. Oh, I'm glad it was you. So glad it is you. Fancy meeting you here on Earth all those decades ago. You and your sun-bright smile, moon-bright eyes, billowing heart, for the first time, meeting all of you, all your radiance, eloquence, pure kindness then, and every time since. Never less than the full of the same zest for living and loving, never being other than a best friend, faithful champion, and no matter the passage of time or change of place, always engaged and engaging, ever generously giving. Oh, I'm glad it was you. So glad it is you. Okay. Did you listen in for the smiling one? Well, when someone smiles from their whole being, their essence beams out. We see it, but even more, we feel it in ours. Like the good doctor for Dr. Steve Morone. Weekapaug, Rhode Island, August 2020. Horse doctor, animal helper, a spry 79, here in his waders, chasing the running schools of mackerel up and down the beach, like a youngster. Casting with joy into the same waters he's been fishing since boyhood. Then, with his father, now solo, with his own good and bright smiling spirit. The good doctor. And what of those smiles? Those smiles that are such trademarks of certain people or leave an indelible impression on us. This is from my soul brother, Andy Reid. This was on his 67th birthday this very year, the end of January. That smile says it all. That winning smile, widely, faithfully, boyishly, and joyfully beaming. That sunny smile, glad-hearted man I've known and loved for a lifetime. Stephen Charleston wrote this. Today I will practice the spiritually subversive act of smiling. I will face reality. I will recognize the depth of the problems around me and within me. I will understand how serious these problems are, and I will engage with them as such. But then I will smile. Even in the heart of all the problems of the world, I will smile. And by so doing, I will embody the subversive nature of spirituality. The smile has its own sacred reality, life in the midst of death, joy in the midst of sorrow, hope in the midst of chaos. I will seek to embody that to the world, to all those who need it so desperately. Today, I will smile. Thank you, Stephen Charleston. I'm with him on that. Like go where the joy is and go often, smile often. Let the smiles come, rise up in you and out from you. Derek Walcott, love after love. The time will come when with elation you will greet yourself, arriving at your own door, in your own mirror, and each will smile at the other's welcome, saying, sit here, eat. You will love again the stranger who was yourself. Give wine, give bread, give back your heart to the stranger who has loved you all your life, whom you ignored for another who knows you by heart. Take down the love letters from the bookshelf, the photographs, the desperate notes. Peel your own image from the mirror. Sit, feast on your life. Always beautiful, thank you. Derek Walcott. And next to last, thinking of those small things and gestures that make our day, like receiving a kind word or a kind word and a smile, which is my once now gone father-in-law Leonardo would say, a kind word and a smile goes a long way in life when you give it. And to be grateful, I would say, for all such gifts. This is for the milk, frothed and poured into my morning coffee, and the milkman who delivered it, bottled and cold to the grocery store, and the one who placed it on the shelf, and the other who checked it out with a smile, for the dairy farmer who raised and milked the soft and white and brindled cows, the cows that gave it to the farmer's pail, the pastures of grass and clover that fed the cows, and the barn that sheltered them, for the rain and sun that helped the pastures grow and green, the clouds that gave the rain and the sky that held them up, and the earth that gave the fertile soil for the dream and streams of milk to even begin. Thank you. That's from a collection I'm working on called The Book of Thank Yous. Stay tuned. And last for now, for you, for us, this was a poem for my dear friend Uta Dugan on becoming an American citizen. I was there after the ceremony in New York in April of 2007. And it's called The Lady Smiled. When you took your oath to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness today, the statue of the colossally copper-clad lady standing since 1886 at New York's door with her sunlit torch of gold smiled. And as she smiled, ships of all shapes and sizes and ages, especially ferries and tugs, blew whistles and horns sky high and bass low, and bells on bicycles and church towers from the Battery to Gramercy rang clearly and joyfully. all to salute you and your Declaration of Independence, your pledge to pursue the possibilities and great freedoms that come with being an American, that belong to us as citizens, who, us among them, welcome you today with broad stripes and bright stars. The lady smiled. Well, thank you again, each and all, for leaning in, feeling in, and smiling in. I hope you smiled a good bit. And sharing the shows with others, as many of you do. Feel free to post a link to this show or the playlist to your social media channels. Be delighted to have it ripple out. Someone mentioned me the other day, and suddenly there was a boost of listeners. That was quite wonderful. But we were always looking for the enthusiastic listeners, not just casual, but interested ones. I do thank you also for those who send me words of affirmation, and for those generous listeners who send time to time donations to help support the work I do here to enlighten and enliven you and a growing body of others. If there's a theme you'd like me to shape a future broadcast around, send an email to me, Colin@thepoetorialist.com. And what about your experience of this show on birthdays? That was last week. Sorry about that. On the Smile. I'd love to hear what it was. I'd also like to hear about actually your interest in the birthdays program, if you haven't heard it yet. If you're contributing, you can use Venmo to fivefold, FIVEFOLD, at pipeline.com, or by PayPal to the same email. Or you can simply mail a check to me at P.O. Box 1032, Westerly, Rhode Island, 02891, or donate through my site, thepoetorialist.com, and the Donate tab. Yes, selected patrons can, as some of you know, sponsor or host me as a working poet in residence for an agreed time and an agreed place in the U.S. or elsewhere in the world to create a new flight of poetic art and dedicate it to them. Email me and we'll explore. Meanwhile, you can hear all the broadcasts online, on YouTube, on the floating poetry playlist. I hope you'll lean in soon again. Till then, dear listeners, may beautiful smiles fill your days. Smiles of yours and others, to and from friends, neighbors, and strangers alike. For nothing brightens the world, sweetens the moment, softens the heart like a generous, spontaneous smile. And heaven knows the world would be all the lighter and more agreeable if everyone went around smiling with abandon. Goodbye for now, friends, and good spirits.